Welcome back, Sikkim 365 Radio. Time for Off the Radar, taking a look at some stories from around sports, and we'll start off with Coach K and just a funny little conversation on ESPN Radio. I'm not an ESPN Radio listener. Used to be. We worked at an ESPN outlet, and it was just kind of the thing that you had on. But I haven't listened to it since we left there, like 2 years ago. I mean, literally probably like 10 seconds of it, maybe in total, since we left 2 years ago. But on ESPN Radio National today, they've got the show Keyshawn, J. Will, and Max. I haven't listened to it. None of this show in particular.
I've only seen YouTube clips.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they were doing this show, and Jay Will is obviously Jay Williams, the ESPN analyst and former Duke star. And he got kind of people in a little bit of a tizzy today because they were talking about the game last night and talking about Coach K, and they started talking about the fact that Duke's going to be losing, one of their top assistant coaches. He's now headed off to Louisville, and his name's Nolan Smith, had taken over as associate head coach at Louisville with with Kenny Payne. So they're talking about Smith leaving Duke, and he was saying he was really happy for him, great opportunity and all of that. But he brought it back around to Duke by saying, and it leads me to think, which I've been thinking a lot since I heard this news on Monday, does Coach K come back for another season? One more final season? And I know everybody's like, what? And so I'm thinking, like, what possible reasoning would he have? Here was his reasoning. Here's why I give it a legit chance. If you're Nolan Smith and you have a great relationship with all these players, you're in the same conference, you're at Louisville, you're picking up the phone and recruiting players from Duke, it weakens the hold of Duke. If you're Coach K, how do you strengthen that hold? You're coming back. So what are your thoughts on Jay Williams' theory about the way, because of an assistant coach being hired at Louisville, that somehow that might lead to Coach K coming back for one more run? Would y'all, if he even considered it and you heard about it, would you just slam your head into a wall?
That would be embarrassing for him, given the red carpet that he got on the way out. And look, you can think whatever you want about Coach K. I don't think he's that much of an egomaniac that he would have to do that and then negate his little goodbye tour that happened. And look, maybe losing to North Carolina twice on the way out will really, chap his hide for a long time to come. But look, he made his decision. He's also 75 years old.
Yeah.
Hey, did Tom Brady retire?
Yeah, but he didn't do a tour.
I
cannot
imagine that happening. That's just throwing some. That could be. I'm not saying that was a clicks and views comment.
I think it's wishful thinking,
right? Yeah,
it's wishful thinking is what it is. That somehow Coach K is going to come back. Because I think if you're a Duke fan, you can say whatever you want to about what they've got in place and all that, but that's still Coach K leaving. And there's just as much of a chance. You'll probably still remain pretty good for the foreseeable future. But I don't think that magic pixie dust just lasts for forever and ever, and you remain Duke basketball. Like Coach K is still there the entire. I think that's one of the interesting things about last night is they'll always be a big brand, and they'll probably always win a lot of games and play for a lot of titles. But you do wonder, is there going to be a little bit of a slip because of the fact that the guy who's been orchestrating it all for decades now is now out the way. But yeah, I just thought that was kind of funny, and I just would love to see the reaction. I almost wish that April 1st would have been today and Coach K could have played it up. And can you imagine how many people hey, North Carolina, guess what? You didn't beat him in his final game. Yeah. You didn't beat him in his final game at Cameron Indoor either. That would have been nuts.
They would just sweep him next year.
But just wishful thinking on Jay Williams' part. All right, the big news, the real big news from today, Tiger Woods is coming back. He is letting it be known that he plans to play in the upcoming 2022 Masters. He said that today during his official press conference at Augusta. There's 2 days to go until the first round begins, so definitely getting in on the party late, but he's Tiger Woods. He can do that, and he's been practicing for the last few days at Augusta with his son Charlie, as well as with Justin Thomas. He says, as of right now, I feel like I'm going to play. As of right now, I'm going to play 9 more holes Wednesday. And said that would be really his final evaluation tomorrow when he plays those 9 holes. But, letting it be known, he's going to come back, and he's apparently looked good all week based on the people that have been around there. And, that might be the craziest story in sports if he were to come back and win a Masters. I know it was crazy the last time he did it, but I think this would maybe even top that because of the physical, just pain and everything that he's apparently been going through since that car wreck. But yeah, Tiger's back, and he's looking like he's going to play in the Masters.
Well, and look, 15, what year was that when he tore his ACL? 14 years ago. And
it was 2008 when he won the U.S. Open.
He hasn't played in 17 months, and he had the car wreck 14 months ago.
He's done it on one leg before with that torn ACL, but this is a lot different situation. He's a lot older. It's a lot worse. If he can walk to 72 holes on that course, I mean, it's not a local municipal course that has 2 hills and a couple of water hazards. It's undulations and hills and rolling spots and all that. So it'll be interesting. It's not the easiest course to walk.
Another great Hall of Fame golfer, Ben Hogan, this is in the late 40s, was involved in a really bad car wreck and basically was almost crippled, came back and played golf again. Ben Hogan's, if no one's maybe a better ball striker, and perhaps there's always the Nicklaus argument about he or Tiger as the best overall golfer. It's happened, but man, what he's done to me is beyond anything I ever expected. Never thought he'd win the Masters again. He did in 19, and never thought he would win or play again after the accident a year ago, but here we are.
I mean, you are 2 groupies. Y'all excited?
Oh, I'm thrilled. I watched the press conference today, DVR'd it, watched him on the range, watched some of he and Justin Thomas, Fred Couples. I mean, you got to comment a little bit. He still has to get up and down those hills for 4 days. Well, excuse me. He has to make the cut. And also has to make sure he doesn't get hurt along the way. And I hope it's like I'm blown away that he's even playing.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty shocking and pretty surprising that we're at this point. I mean, they just being the general public tried to bury him now, 3 or 4 times, and he's like the Undertaker. He just keeps rising back up and keeps on going. So, very interesting news there. Tiger Woods looking like he's going to play in the Masters. Have you guys seen any TV ratings for last night? I've been looking around. I haven't seen anything.
I did. I heard.
I saw the women's, though. The women's national championship game, UConn and South Carolina, most watched NCAA women's basketball game in nearly 2 decades. And the biggest rating since 2004, close to 5 million viewers, 4.85 to be exact. That's up 18% from last year. It's up 30% from just 3 years ago, and at one point peaked with close to 6 million viewers, 5.91. So good numbers. I mean, UConn's involved, so they're going to be, having some fans tuning in, but I think with, obviously what Don Staley has done with South Carolina, that's probably as big of a matchup just about as it gets right now at the moment. So that was good, and that's a big deal for women's baskall. It's kind of begging for attention, and of course South Carolina getting the job done and hoisting the trophy. So good for them. And now they get to the ratings talk as well. So let's see if women's basketball can take advantage of that.
I can't imagine Saturday's game, Duke, North Carolina alone, just up the ante. Not to mention that were the Blue Bloods involved in KU and then Villanova. And I can't imagine that the Final Four ratings were among maybe the best in the last 8 to 10 years. We know the names of the Blue Bloods and the names of the programs, traditions. I think it probably the numbers. I can't find it either, but I would imagine it's awesome.
I mean, maybe they're not out yet. That could be entirely possible. I mean, the game was just played last night. I mean, we typically do get ratings pretty much the next afternoon, but no, I haven't seen any on that, but did see from the women's championship game. So they're hitting up, 5 million or so. I would think that bodes well for the men's side of things as well. This happened a couple of days ago. I did want to mention it, though. Hate this for the Houston Cougars football team. Alton McCaskill, their super running back, tore his ACL. He had a terrific freshman year, very talented, very skilled, and just a fun player to watch. So that's a bummer for the Houston Cougars as they get revved up for this upcoming season, but I'm sure he'll bounce back. But that is notable because he's a really good player.
I think right after that, they got a running back out of the portal.
Oh, did they?
Yeah,
okay.
I think so. I can't remember. I have to go back and look. But they did get somebody. I mean, that doesn't mean that guy's going to come in and start and replace that kind of production, but they did respond. It's nice that I guess for teams like that, you have the portal you can do these things with now, as opposed to before. So.
Yeah, Brandon Campbell from USC. Yeah. Okay, I hadn't seen that yet, but yeah, Cougars landed Brandon Campbell, I guess, yesterday, and that will help matters. But Alton McCaskill I mentioned just because I loved watching him last year. I thought he was fantastic, and I thought he was really in store for a monster year with Holgorsen and company. But Brandon Campbell now will help ease some of that pain for the Houston Cougars. Elsewhere, looking at Adam Schefter. Got a new deal with ESPN. We talk about some of the media stuff, or the media side of things on here from time to time. And, I've got a little bit of an issue with how Schefter does things sometimes. I think he clearly, multiple times in the last year really has been kind of caught with his hand in the pockets, or somebody's, the NFL's hands in his pockets, and it's been very obvious. And, he takes a little heat for it and then moves on along and goes about his business, but he's good at what he does despite that. And apparently, according to Andrew Marchand, who's Mr. Sports Media, Adam Schefter, new 5-year deal worth at least $9 million per year. For Schefter, compared to Adrian Wojnarowski, he got 5 years, $7 million per, and Jeff Passan apparently makes around $4 million, that according to Football Scoop. But yeah, Schefty making more than some of the guys that he covers, than a lot of the guys he covers, actually.
Good for him. I'm surprised that after the wave of negative news, they still kind of went through with this. But I mean, he is really well connected,
and he's well known. Yeah, so, I mean, he's what people think of.
And most people look. The fact that they are a cable news network basically means that the bar for people knowing all the stuff that we know about people is pretty low. Like, the general public doesn't know what their favorite CNN, Fox News, ESPN person's really like. They just read the tweets and move on with their life. They don't, you like who you like, and that's who it is. Walter Cronkite's been dead for a long time, and it happens, and you know it more every day.
Yeah, I mean, if Adam Schefter stopped doing ESPN, I wouldn't change my life in any way, but I know for a lot of people it would be like jarring and shocking. Well, for them, they don't have to worry about that anymore, and ESPN really shelling out the dough here as of lately when you think about, as Football Scoop pointed out, just some of the network hires, but also just what they did with, I mean, in terms of the NFL and spending, Joe Buck and Troy Aikman and all of that. So they continue to just dole out cash. And I know that Paul had mentioned this, and we got to go here because we got John McClain who's got a big day. But at some point, we'll probably need to talk more about MLB and these electronic pitch signaling devices. Trying to get rid of sign stealing, trying to get rid of the banging of the trash cans. Thanks Astros, and thanks a lot of other teams as well. Let's face it, Yankees, Red Sox, they were all cheating to some extent. But players will soon be allowed to use PitchCom, which is an electronic wrist device, per Buster Olney. That's a pad with buttons for catchers, and it'll be paired with a listening device for the pitchers. So the catcher will signal the pitch on his wrist pad, his little button wristwatch or whatever, and signal the pitch type and the location, and the pitcher will actually hear what the pitch location and type is through that earpiece, and that's how they will signal rather than the typical putting your fingers down and signaling that way. What do you guys...
I'm about to kill myself by just listening to all that.
Well,
how long does that take?
The infielders, it's not apparently pretty fast. They've rolled it out through spring training, and the reviews from the players, they love it. They absolutely love it, which is one of the rare things that baseball has done that the players like. So I think they need to take this as a win. It apparently works pretty well and is pretty quick, and they've been tinkering with it for a little bit, so they know how to work it.
But with analytics, why doesn't the manager just do that? The manager pushes a button, it goes to all the players.
Oh. Well, yeah.
Am I right?
I mean, but I mean, I think that they don't want the manager to do it. They want the players to do it. I think here's my upgrade for it. Here's my upgrade. You know how on your GPS you can get like a celebrity voice?
Yeah.
Like you can tell Alexa, like my Alexa can be Sam Jackson, which is pretty funny. But I think they should do that for the pitch count just to make it more fun for them. Like everybody that has that listening device can hear Sam Jackson or Nick Offerman or somebody with a cool voice.
Yeah, well, apparently like 5 guys will be able to use it, or around that. They're going to be like multiple guys with it, but it's been tested, as you said. The Yankees tried it out. Luis Severino and also Kyle Higashioka were two that worked it out, and Severino said afterwards, I think it was great. I was a little doubtful at the beginning, but when we started using it, it was really good. With a man on second, too, I would definitely like to use it in my first start of the regular season. You know what pitch you're going to throw right away, and that's true. Like a guy standing on second is checking out the catcher signals, and now you don't even have to worry about that at all. But, yeah, so far, PitchCom has gotten good reviews, and you're not going to be forced to use it. So if you don't want to do it, you don't have to do it. But it does look like, Luis Severino is already saying, I'm going to use it on, in my first start, and we'll see how many others adopt it. But just a little changing of the technology now in baseball, and obviously a result of just the rampant cheating that was going on with multiple clubs. So there's a few things off the radar.
Thank you, Craig. Appreciate that. Michael Kay was grilling Carlos Beltran, is going to be his broadcast partner for the Yes Network for Yankees games about the 2017 Astros scandal. It's kind of trying to move past it. And Beltran, I thought, was very honest, very open, very transparent, and said we were wrong. And admitted that. He was mad because he's the only name of a player who was mentioned in the report that came out.
Well, I mean, it's because he's the one that helped carry it over from the other clubs that he was on and helped spread it even further. And it just sucks for the Astros that they happened to sign Carlos Beltran right in the middle of all of that. And look, they clearly other guys bought into it or were doing it or whatever. There's no denying that. But yeah, Carlos Beltran, you talk about involved. I mean, he's right there in the middle of it.
I congratulate Carlos Beltran on this, for being the first real person from the Astros to kind of say all that and say, like, look.
Yeah, he could have dodged it.
Here's why we did it. This is what we were caught up in. He was not seeking forgiveness or anything like that or trying to blame somebody else. He said, this is what we were caught up in. Yeah, it's wrong, and we were just kind of in it.
Yeah, and we got to go, but I will add on to that. I think that's what keeps the story alive is the fact that a lot of Astros fans or Astros players who are like, won't back down or get defensive about it or like, well, screw you, everybody else was doing it. And that just makes people harp on it even further to where it's like 4 years later and we're still talking about it, even though we know a ton of other teams are doing it. The focus always goes to the Astros. And I think that's because of fan response and just kind of like, screw you, we won anyways. And that doesn't endear you at all, because if you would have just kind of said like, yeah, we did it and moved on, I think it would have gone away by now. I really do.
It's like anything else. Admit it, move on, and let that thing kind of linger. There's a certain amount of timeline for stories and all that. When we come back, John McClain